Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, a life-changing personality. Early life. Azamgarh, a historic and renowned city in eastern Uttar Pradesh, India, has long been a beacon of knowledge and art, illuminating the world. The city's rich heritage in education, culture, and civilization is ancient. Many renowned scholars have been born here, including Allama Shibli Nomani, Maulana Hamiduddin Farahi, Maulana Amin Ahsan Islahi, Iqbal Ahmed Khan Sohail, Maulana Akhtar Ahsan Islahi, Maulana Abdul Salam Nadvi, Aslam Jairajpuri, and Maulana Sadruddin Islahi. In this illustrious city's remote village of Badharia, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan was born in January 1925. Family background and education. Hailed from an Afghan Pathan family on his father's side, while his mother belonged to a landlord family of new Muslims. At the tender age of 4, he lost his father, Fariduddin Khan. The ancestral property was divided, leaving his family with an old and desolate mansion once used for housing animals. Despite the unfair division, his mother, Zebun Nisa, showed immense patience and did not seek help from anyone. She worked hard to raise her children excellently. Their house was far from the town, and Maulana Wahiduddin walked to the madrasa for his education. He spent the first 15 years of his life in a purely rural environment rather than an urban one. Despite a strong tradition of Western education in his family, a close elder, Sufi Abdul Hamid Khan, enrolled Wahiduddin Khan in Madrasa Al-Islah to pursue Arabic education and become a religious scholar. He joined the madrasa in 1938, where he was mentored by teachers like Maulana Amin Ahsan Islahi and scholars like Maulana Akhtar Ahsan Islahi. Marriage and children. At 17, during his studies, he married Sabiha Khatun, a widow whose first husband, Nizamuddin, was Maulana's cousin. After the death of her daughter, she was left alone, prompting Maulana's cousin, Iqbal Sohail, to arrange their marriage. She was educated and a regular member of Jamaat-e-Islami. Despite Maulana Wahiduddin Khan's separation from the Jamaat, she remained associated with it throughout her life. They had 7 children, 2 of whom died young, while 2 sons and 3 daughters lived to natural ages. His entire family and his wife actively supported his mission. Significant phases of life. Maulana's conscious life can be divided into 4 phases. The first phase lasted until 1948, encompassing his education at Madrasa Al-Islah and a subsequent period of renewed religious study. The second phase involved his association with Jamaat-e-Islami from 1948 to 1963. The third phase was his connection with traditional religious thought from 1963 to 1976. The fourth phase began with the publication of the monthly magazine Al-Risala and continued until his death on April 21, 2021. First phase. At Madrasa Al-Islah, he learned the invaluable lesson that true and accurate knowledge cannot be achieved without sincere and correct seeking. He recounts an incident where Maulana Amin Ahsan Islahi, a teacher of tafsir, asked students about the nature of camel hooves during a discussion on Surah Al-Ghasiyah, Ayah 17. None of the 20 students knew the answer. Maulana Islahi then explained that not knowing something is half knowledge, as it instills the desire to complete one's knowledge. This incident profoundly influenced Maulana Khan, shaping his general disposition to recognize his ignorance in various matters. Maulana Wahiduddin considered his education at the madrasa significant, attributing his disciplined life to it. The madrasa instilled in him strong skills in arts and grammar. While he acknowledged that the training and benefits he received at the madrasa were his greatest assets, he admitted that he did not have a clear concept of religious interpretation during his education. He confessed to not fully grasping the principles of coherence in Quranic understanding. Reflecting on his education, he wrote, "When I graduated and stepped out of the madrasa, I faced another question for which I had no answer. What is the external relation of this coherent discourse, the Quran, with the world? I had been taught much about the internal connection of each Quranic verse, but not about the external connection of these Quranic parts. As a result, after graduating from the madrasa, I soon became engrossed in a new intellectual pursuit. This intellectual frenzy led me to a point where I almost reached the brink of irreligion. He was haunted by the fear that perhaps he had inherited this religion. Was this the true religion? He was restless to find the answer to this question. He did not agree with his teacher's views on national issues. This was when India was going through the tumultuous period of partition. He did not agree with the then leader's analysis that the solution to India's problem was independence from British rule. In his view, the British were dominant because they were far ahead in knowledge, technology, and social aspects compared to all Indian classes. When such a situation arises, colonialism becomes a natural consequence. He did not see the solution to this problem in partition or freedom from British rule. However, he did think that colonialism was a historical inevitability rather than slavery. Considering it, slavery breeds hatred and contempt, which hinders accepting the scientific advancements brought by the British and European nations. Thus, he remained engrossed in his world of thought, detached from the partition event. He was restless to find solutions to these intellectual, political, and social issues. This sense of ignorance deepened over time. The intensity of this can be gauged from an incident. In 1945, before the partition, he aimlessly wandered to the railway station of Azamgarh town, boarded a train without a ticket to any destination, and got off at Lahore City, the train's last stop. Although he disembarked, he was anxious about where to go. In this state, he had a desire to end his life by jumping in front of the train. Although a fast-moving engine passed by him, he could not do so. He spent a few days in the city and returned to his town with the help of a tailor master. He made several such journeys in a state of madness. Eventually, he began a fresh study of religion. He studied the Quran and Hadith again, learned English, and read the scholarly works of major scholars. This journey concluded after 1948, which he mentioned in his diary on October 28, 2000, in the following words: "I studied the Quran, Hadith, and the life of the Prophet directly in Arabic. This study was not simple for me. It almost entirely took place amidst a shower of tears. I read, and my tears continuously confirmed that this is undoubtedly the truth. There is no doubt about its authenticity. In this way, the continuous shower of tears washed away my old personality entirely. This study became equivalent to a great bath of knowledge for me. After completing it, I rediscovered the divine personality given by nature, which I had lost under the temporary influence of circumstances. Thus, after years of search and study, I consciously, with the help of Allah, accepted Islam anew. I can say that Islam is my discovery." Second phase. The second phase of Maulana's life was when he joined Jamaat-e-Islami. He was a member for more than 10 years and was part of its Central Advisory Council. In 1956, he joined the Central Writing Department of Jamaat-e-Islami India, then based in Rampur, Uttar Pradesh. During this time, he realized that Maulana Maududi's interpretation of religion was not according to the Quran. He adopted this opinion after extensive and deep study. During this continuous and rigorous study, he fainted several times. The result was that he separated from the Jamaat in 1963 and published his critique under Tabir Ki Galti, the error of interpretation. During his research, he communicated his views to Jamaat-e-Islami members through discussions, but they asked him to present his criticism in writing. He sent his critique to Maulana Wahiduddin in Pakistan. He detailed the complete account in his book, Tabir Ki Galti. Maulana Wahiduddin did not respond to his criticism's arguments and reasoning but wrote back, "Your study has led you in one direction, while mine has led me in another. If you have concluded that I have completely misunderstood religion, then you should dissociate yourself from this viewpoint and positively promote what you consider correct. However, if you find it necessary to point out mistakes in my interpretation, I have no objection. You can publish your book. When Maulana Wahiduddin Khan pressed Maulana Maududi to respond to his critique, he wrote, "Your style of argument suggests that whoever does not accept your viewpoint is ignorant and unwise." Maulana Wahiduddin acknowledged that his style might have been aggressive, but his sole aim was to seek the truth. The essence of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan's critique of Maulana Maududi is that he raised the concepts of God, Lord, worship, and religion, and claimed that a correct understanding of the Quran hinges on these four terms. However, due to the passage of time, his real understanding has faded to such an extent that even dictionaries do not capture the original meanings. Hence, the interpretation of religion has deviated from what it truly was. He then clarified these terms and determined their meanings according to his understanding. Following this, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan provided arguments showing that Maulana Maududi's interpretation was entirely incorrect and self-made. This led to a new interpretation of religion, which he later termed the political interpretation of religion in his other book. According to Maulana Maududi, religion is a state, worship is a training course, and God and Lord are beings who desire to see their will implemented on earth ultimately. Thus, in light of this interpretation, religion is essentially the struggle for the dominance of faith. All acts of worship are training for this. Invitation, preaching, and jihad are ways to achieve this goal. In contrast, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan argued that there had been no change in the understanding of the discussed terms. He quoted opinions of eminent Quranic scholars and historical Islamic figures to show that God means Allah with all his attributes. Still, Maulana Maududi focused on the attribute of absolute authority, thus limiting and making the meaning of God one-sided and unbalanced. Similarly, Lord primarily means sustainer, but it also includes the sense of master and owner. Maulana Maududi took the latter meaning, turning the all attributes containing Allah into a mere absolute ruler. The same goes for worship and religion. Worship means supplication, humility, and submissiveness. You acknowledge yourself as insignificant and weak before Allah, your creator and sustainer, and praise him out of love. However, when you consider him a ruler, worship becomes a means to become a divine enforcer, making you a component in establishing Allah's orders on earth. Thus, instead of humility, you develop a sense of superiority. You are not worshippers but commandos in a military parade, focusing not on your training but on conquering and subjugating others. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan illustrated his interpretation with numerous examples and presented a favorite poem of Jamaat-e-Islami critics. "The purpose of my life is to elevate your religion. This is the only reason that makes me a Muslim and a worshipper." In his critique, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan also discusses another Quranic term, Iqamat-e-Din. Maulana Maududi interprets it as the imposition of religion, while Maulana Wahiduddin Khan interprets it as adherence to religion. According to Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, based on the unanimous interpretation of all scholars, the command is to adhere to religion. Religion is not a state but involves believing in certain truths, i.e., doctrines, and acting upon their practical implications. Thus, when prayer is obligatory, you will pray, fast, give alms, perform Hajj if you can, and offer sacrifices. Similarly, if you hold political influence or are a ruler in a Muslim state, you will strive to implement Islamic law within constitutional limits. You should give zakat and charity when you have the means, not collect wealth first to give charity later. Therefore, you should not establish an Islamic state first or form an Islamic party to gain power and then impose an Islamic system. In the literature of the Jamaat, it was explicitly stated that establishing a divine government is obligatory for every Muslim man and woman. If you do not support a group striving to establish an Islamic government, you must have a justification ready for Allah, otherwise, you will be held accountable on the Day of Judgment. However, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan sees this as interference in religion, an addition of a new command that does not exist in Islam, just as it is not obligatory for every person to punish a murderer, thief, or adulterer. The implementation of Sharia is not obligatory on the common person, but on the ruler. And nowhere did the lawgiver command that you must become a ruler to enforce Sharia. In a democratic system, you will support a party of your choice under the principle of cooperation in goodness and righteousness, not in sin and aggression. In interpreting religion and clarifying its reality, Maulana demonstrated his scholarly and missionary expertise remarkably. He explained his viewpoint throughout his life in various styles. In this regard, he provided a very clear and straightforward explanation of the Quranic verse that commands complete adherence to religion. He said, "There is a verse in the Quran, 'Enter into Islam completely.' Some interpret it to mean implementing all Islamic commands. This means performing prayers and fasting, and cutting off the thief's hand and flogging people. Islam should be implemented as a complete political system. Otherwise, your Islam will remain incomplete. This is absurd. Entirely absurd. Remember a principle of Islam. Islam addresses the individual, not the system or society. It is very important to understand that Islam addresses the individual. This is being said to an individual, enter into Islam completely." What does this mean? It means that an individual should integrate their daily life and entire being into Islam. This is the meaning. Hold on to Islam in both letter and spirit. After adopting this position, Maulana created extensive literature to refute the opposing view, arguably more effectively than any other figure. He was among the few knowledgeable individuals who early on highlighted the drawbacks of interpreting Islam as a political system. His analysis was that movements for the implementation of Sharia would inevitably lead to violent situations. He noted that societies lacking or having weak democratic values saw numerous armed movements like Al-Qaeda. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan clearly pointed out the consequences of this interpretational error. He also explained why this error occurred and why it became popular in Muslim societies. He wrote extensively and convincingly on this subject. According to his analysis, Muslims first suffered political decline due to rigid adherence to tradition and religion and falling behind in modern scientific and social knowledge. Consequently, they lost power and fell victim to a reactionary mindset. Their leaders, intellectuals, and scholars mistakenly believed they were victims of a conspiracy, whereas they were defeated due to their ignorance. Adherence to tradition and alienation from modern sciences. He strongly advised Muslim leadership and the masses to abandon confrontation and adopt a strategy of coexistence, creating an atmosphere of peace, acquiring scientific and modern knowledge, and strengthening themselves morally through Quranic teachings and the life of the Prophet. The positive literature he created on this subject is unparalleled in the Muslim world. He was a one-man army in this field, addressing contemporary issues and urging Muslims to move beyond conspiracy theories. While the enemy does conspire, it is our duty to understand and avoid falling victim to their schemes. His famous statement is, "Construction is not possible through destruction. Those who buy weapons cannot defeat those who manufacture them. Those who make noise and protest are deprived of thoughtful consideration." Criticism. Maulana's stance faced severe criticism from Jamaat-e-Islami and its supporters. After the 9/11 terrorist attacks, all traditional thinkers joined this criticism. He was accused of being an agent of the enemies, teaching cowardice to the nation, and being a hypocrite. Maulana responded to every accusation by positively presenting his position without reacting. He provided overwhelming evidence against the opposing viewpoints. Eventually, time proved his position correct. Third phase. The third phase of Maulana's life was when he became associated with the Tablighi Jamaat, Nadwatul Ulama, and the magazine Al-Jamia, the organ of Jamiatul Ulama. During this period, he tried to work within the traditional religious framework. He left the Tablighi Jamaat because it operated in a manner completely different from his concept of dawah. After joining Nadwa in Lucknow in 1963, he proposed a plan to reform madrasas, which included 1. Establishing a common center for all madrasas for communication. 2. Keeping madrasas informed of global academic advancements through the center. 3. Updating classical commentary and interpretive books according to contemporary knowledge. 4. Creating a board to suggest curriculum improvements. 5. Including new courses in the curriculum to address modern challenges like atheism. 6. Organizing workshops and refresher courses for teachers. 7. Establishing an institution to teach scholars skills they missed in madrasas but need for dawah work. Maulana was deeply disappointed when none of his suggestions were even properly heard, let alone accepted. As editor of Al-Jamia, he proposed a series of lectures on Quranic dawah to Nadwa and other religious institutions, which were rejected. This led him to conclude that there was no serious intellectual environment or academic freedom in Indian religious institutions. They were focused solely on propagating their own sect. After Al-Jamia ceased publication, he decided to work independently according to his views. Fourth phase. Maulana launched Al-Risala in 1976. Though he had conceived the idea in 1950 with the establishment of Man Ansari Ilala. However, he implemented it when he became disillusioned. When he started Al-Risala in October 1976, he wrote on the cover, "The sun sets in the west to rise again in the east with new glory. This is a clear sign in the sky, telling us daily how God has structured his kingdom. After the sunset, one should plan their struggle and start their journey on the path of life anew." Al-Risala's publication was made possible with the help of his son, Zafarul Islam, and later his entire family supported the endeavor. Critics did not believe in the project's success, but it gained immense popularity despite difficulties. Religious circles strongly opposed it, and contemporary religious magazines refused to advertise it. The campaign against it became its advertisement. The institution introduced excellent marketing schemes, making Al-Risala more widely circulated than any religious magazine. Its readers included Muslims and non-Muslims. Once, a Hindu reader was asked if he was satisfied with its contents. He replied that it taught ways to live a better life, but was anti-Hindu because it advised Muslims to be patient, implying Muslims are truthful and oppressed. Maulana wrote all its contents himself while continuing other writings. Despite doubts about how he could sustain this single-handedly, he remarkably succeeded in maintaining high standards. For 45 years until his death, Al-Risala was published under his editorship and writings and continues to feature his work. An Arab sheikh once offered to cover all expenses on the condition that half the content be written by Arab authors, which Maulana declined. In 1992, during a visit to Pakistan, he was asked to include other authors' writings to ensure Al-Risala's continuity. He responded that if he died today, Al-Risala would continue to feature his fresh writings for the next 7 years. Thus, Al-Risala's publication continues, though it is now bi-monthly. Other projects under Al-Risala. Al-Risala began in 2 rented rooms. After its success, Maulana named his residence the Islamic Center and started several projects. Publication of books. Maulana worked on Quranic commentary and other explanatory and dawah books. His son, Sani Athnin, established Good Words, a publishing house for quality children's books. His daughter, Dr. Farida Khanam, translated selected works of Maulana into English. Al-Quran Mission. The Al-Quran Mission was established in April 2010, coinciding with the completion of the English translation of the Quran. Its goal is to make the translation of the Quran accessible to everyone. By this time, the Quran had been translated into 40 languages. These translations are pocket-sized, containing only the translation without the original Arabic text, making them easy to carry and read. They are distributed for free. Additionally, his commentary, Tazkirul Quran, has been translated into 6 languages: Arabic, English, Hindi, French, Pashto, and Sindhi. Travels and other missionary activities. Maulana first conducted missionary tours in various regions of India, and then traveled to numerous countries around the world upon invitations from Al-Risala circles. He delivered lectures at interfaith seminars and workshops in various countries. He utilized modern means like radio lectures, cassettes, and other contemporary media to further his missionary work. Maulana authored a total of 131 books, originally written in Urdu, many of which have been translated into English, and some into Hindi and Arabic. His books can be categorized into 3 types: missionary, critical, and explanatory, with most being missionary works. The following 10 books are particularly significant. 1. The Challenge of Modern Times, Maulana's first popular book, translated into several languages including Arabic. It addresses scientific, historical, and academic objections to Islam and provides positive arguments in favor of Islam. It was well received by all schools of thought within the Muslim community. 2. Error in Interpretation, a critique of Maulana Wahiduddi's ideas. The first part consists of correspondence with Maulana Maududi and some members of Jamaat-e-Islami India, while the second part comprises scholarly criticism. 3. Tazkirul Quran, a 2-volume commentary on the Quran focusing on its admonitory aspects rather than scholarly, jurisprudential, theological, or linguistic issues. 4. Al-Islam, an exposition and interpretation of the entire religion. 5. The Prophet of Revolution, a biography of the Prophet Muhammad, highlighting his exemplary conduct and wisdom rather than merely recounting events. It received an award from the Pakistani government for being the best book. 6. The Woman of Islam, discusses various topics related to women that are often used to criticize Islam. It also covers the lives of notable Muslim women in a missionary style. 7. Renewal of Religion, a brief treatise where Maulana discusses the innovations and deviations he believes have led to the decline of the Muslim Ummah and suggests a plan of action. This book responds to a book on the same topic by Maulana Maududi. 8. Islam and Socialism, a refutation of communism and socialism. 9. Knowledge of God, discusses how to establish a living and enduring relationship with God without renouncing the world. 10. Travels, accounts of Maulana's travels in various countries and within India, filled with interesting information about the regions and missionary insights. Center for Peace and Spirituality International, CPS. In January 2001, the Islamic Center established CPS. This platform facilitates spiritual training without renouncing the world. It is not a system of Sufi initiation or gatherings of chants and prayers. Instead, it aims to make the remembrance of God a part of consciousness through dialogue, so that a person can feel God's presence at all times. 3 unique aspects of Maulana's personality. After introducing Maulana Wahiduddin Khan's work and background, we present some key aspects of his personality. 1. A constant thinker. Maulana described himself as a reflective being, with contemplation and reflection pervading his entire life. For him, positive thinking was the greatest discovery for any human being. He never reacted negatively to any scholarly point, no matter how much it opposed his thoughts, beliefs, or efforts. Instead, he made it a subject of his contemplation. For instance, when asked if history would be affected if Muhammad, peace be upon him, were removed from it, instead of reacting angrily, he sought an answer. This quest led to his famous thesis in Islam, the Creator of the Modern Age, where he argued that the universal propagation of monotheism opened the doors for research on nature, leading to the scientific era. Thus, he demonstrated that the world could not have entered the current scientific age without the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him. Two, extremely simple life. Maulana led an incredibly simple life. A vegetarian by birth, he followed a policy of eating only one type of food throughout his life. Despite other dishes being served, he only ate simple vegetables. He practiced extreme simplicity in his attire, wearing new clothes only when the old ones were completely worn out, and even these were of very modest quality. He never trimmed his beard except to remove hair that obstructed cleanliness. Entertainment was never part of his life, considering it a waste of time. He avoided luxuries, even abstaining from cold water in summer and never using air-conditioned rooms. Throughout his life, he never brought gifts for his wife or children, not even bangles for his wife or sweets or toys for his children. His daughters got married in their everyday clothes. Despite this extreme simplicity, his family fully supported him without expressing any dissatisfaction, always considering him their ideal. 3. Passionate commitment to the mission. Maulana believed that a person's life should be oriented towards the hereafter, and that every moment of a religious person's life should be dedicated to saving God's creation from hell and guiding them towards paradise. His life was entirely devoted to the mission, with every moment, every effort, and every penny dedicated to missionary work. Even his harshest critics could not fault him in this regard. He believed in using modern and best means for the propagation and development of missionary work, rejecting any austerity or traditionalism in this area. He was deeply immersed in his missionary work, arguably unparalleled in Islamic history. He taught the lesson of nation building to those inclined towards violence and reactionary mindsets, transforming negative energies into positive endeavors. An Al-Risala reader wrote a poem about this transformation, which can be translated as follows: I am furious and inflamed, writhing with restlessness. I hiss and flare up, you have dealt a severe blow. To the crest of my false pride, my mind is scattered. I try to break free from deception, from my shattered and weak state, you have blown away my smoky castles and the towers of my false notions. I have lost myself in endless mazes, searching for a way out. From history and dreadful disappointments, you have unveiled my guide, slowly, very slowly. Almost unnoticed, gradually, step by step. The dawn of real truth reveals itself. My anger subsides, my mind begins to clear, and I start walking in the right direction, a bud of hope sprouts from the roaring dark clouds. Conclusion. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan was a unique personality in the scholarly history of Islam. Today we recognize him as a prominent scholar, a great thinker, and the most distinguished missionary of Islam in this century. He passed away on April 21, 2021, in Delhi. Reflection on death. The remembrance of death was a significant part of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan's literature. On one occasion, he said about death, "The Quran says, 'Every soul shall taste death, then to us you will be returned.'" How strange is this verse? Death is the greatest reminder that you are living in this world. And now, you are returning to the Creator. Death means return to the Creator. The day of death is not the end, not the day of termination, but the day of returning to God. Then to us, you will be returned. Every person must experience death. Death is not a termination, but return to God for accountability. It is an inevitable reality that every living thing has to face. Acknowledgement by Javed Ahmed Ghamidi. Javed Ahmed Ghamidi, a contemporary of Maulana Wahiduddin Khan, had meetings and intellectual companionship with him. Both appreciated each other's scholarly and practical work, considering each other like-minded. When asked about Ghamidi, Maulana Wahiduddin Khan became emotional, recognizing his scholarly achievements and sincerity. Upon Maulana's passing, Ghamidi expressed his thoughts, saying, "Maulana was an extraordinary personality. My connection with him is that we are students of the same teacher, with the difference that he learned from Ustad Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi in his early years, and I had the honor in his later years." Maulana Wahiduddin's voice was unique, perhaps never heard before, and it cannot be said if it will be heard again. From all his works, I consider two things his greatest achievements. Firstly, drawing attention to the true reality of religion, that religion is a system. There were debates and writings about religion as a world-dominant system. He showed that religion is about true knowledge of God, genuine love for Him, and following His commands. He spent his life clarifying this truth, dedicating every moment to it. Secondly, he provided correct guidance on Muslims' political, social, and cultural attitudes. While some might say he was extreme in showing the right path, there is no doubt he told Muslims where they stand in their historical context, their true mission, and the positive conduct they should adopt. Despite differences, the core message was to move beyond reactionary psychology, look at the world positively, and convey the great treasure of religion to the world. He made this central to all his writings. Endorsements. Richard Ian Cheatham, a Christian bishop, expressed his sentiments about Maulana Wahiduddin Khan with these words, "Well, I am encouraged by the work that he is doing, particularly the emphasis on the primacy of peace." Karan Singh, a well-known politician, who has participated in many seminars and conferences with Maulana, holds his scholarly and missionary work in high esteem. Reflecting on Maulana, he said, "I have high regard for Maulana. We have appeared on many occasions together, and he has always spoken with great wisdom and understanding. So, my message to him is only one of regard and respect." Ravi Shankar, a renowned Hindu leader and guru, shared his thoughts on Maulana Wahiduddin Khan. Maulana Wahiduddin Khan is a very renowned spiritual leader of our country. He has great depth and understanding, and his way of peace gives a new understanding about Islam and Islam's tenets of peace. Wahiduddin Khan's philosophy and his interpretation are most valuable, and I think it's very needed in the world today. I think it's a very valuable mission that he is on in bringing peace to people. I wish all the success to him. Swami Agnivesh, a respected Hindu scholar and religious leader, also appreciated Maulana's missionary approach. Sharing his views on Maulana, he said, "Well, I have got great regard for Wahiduddin Khan. He is like my mentor, and I feel inspired whenever I have a few moments to spend with him." He is one person who is trying to transcend narrow religion and religiosity. And for that, he is being accused by many of his community people. But he is not afraid. I want that type of courage for myself. I want to withstand all criticism with a lovely smile on my face, and with compassion for my people, whoever is criticizing me. He wished for his biography to end with this couplet. In the cage, do not fear to tell me the tale of the garden, my friend. Why would the lightning that struck yesterday fall upon my nest?